Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Breakdown. It's February 8th. Despite the fact that the Premier of Alberta has been out of town for a little while, she's been a little unavailable, we still have plenty to talk about. The first thing that we got to talk about, obviously, though, has to be the handshake.
What's that? Please have a seat. What a pleasure to be able to sit down with Premier Smith today.
Now, there's been a lot of debate in regards to the handshake and exactly what happened, what was going on. Was Smith trying to dodge the handshake? Was she not trying to dodge the handshake? What was the whole deal there? And it appears more than anything that maybe she just got a little bit flabbergasted. I mean, there's a lot of people who have taken a look at the video and they've seen that when she looked up at him, her hand kind of dropped. And it makes sense if you think about it, because Smith is very used to being the center of attention. She's used to being the power person in the room. But all of a sudden, she finds herself in a situation where that dynamic doesn't necessarily quite fall into play in the way that she's maybe used to. Now, this handshake came out of a First Minister's meeting that was primarily to discuss healthcare transfer payments. And Justin Trudeau pitched a new 10-year deal that would increase funding to provinces and territories by almost $200 billion, which is not a small amount of money. But where things get a little bit interesting in regards to the funding part has to do with the fact that obviously with that much of an infusion of cash, there's going to be some strings attached. And we saw that very clearly when Prime Minister Trudeau said, and we're going to negotiate this deal with all of the provinces and territories separately. Everybody gets their own deal, much like the childcare deal that we saw come through just a little while ago. Where this gets interesting, though, is Danielle Smith has been very, very clear that she doesn't want to accept any kind of funding if there's any kind of strings attached. So things have the potential to get very, very interesting very, very quickly. We'll see how that goes. But Smith has already made it very clear that she's not super thrilled with the healthcare piece. But what was really strange about the press conference, if you can call it that, the meet and greet, the handshake that went sideways, was Mr. Trudeau talked about healthcare, talked about the importance of healthcare. Danielle Smith largely talked about the importance of energy. So it was much more of a campaign stop, it seemed, in a lot of ways, than it was an actual let's sit down and have some conversations about what we're going to do with healthcare. But this also comes at a time where Smith has largely been unavailable. You might remember last month, the beginning of the month, Danielle Smith did a whole, hey, you know what? We're just going to do a press conference because it's a day that ends in Y. And she threw together this press conference where she made herself available to the media to ask pretty much whatever questions the people who were there wanted to ask. Lasted about an hour. And she said that it was going to become a more regular thing because one of the criticisms that she's heard was that she's simply not available to media enough. Well, she hasn't done that since then. And in fact, she hasn't been seen in public, certainly not in a position where she'd be willing to answer any questions, for coming up to 4 weeks now, which is a very long time when you consider all of the things that have gone on in the meantime. Not only do we have this major healthcare conference going on, but we also have all of the questions about the scandal in regards to whether or not she contacted or her office contacted the prosecutor's office. It seems like the strategy that from the Premier's office has largely been, maybe if we just don't stick our heads up and never ever show our faces in public again, we'll just get away with it and hope for the best. How well that's going to play out, we'll have to see. Moving on from there, though, there's a good news piece. There's a little bit of a happy celebratory story that we can talk about. A little while ago, a group of 50 lawyers introduced a motion saying, hey, you know what? This Indigenous training thing that we have to do through the legal association, the Law Society here in Alberta, we don't want to do it anymore. It just seems like we don't want to do it anymore. And they met the requirement to force a meeting where there's going to be a vote as to whether or not they should continue with this mandatory training piece, which is really a small thing. And if you think about it, most professional associations have, most colleges, most societies have a continuing competency piece that you have to do in order to maintain your practice. It's not a big ask. But there were some folks who said that they didn't wanna. Well, the Law Society voted it down. So the Law Society said, "You know what?" By, like, 2/3, they said, "You know what? This is an important part of truth and reconciliation, especially given the fact that we're in the legal system. We're literally the people driving the legal system by and large. We wanna make sure that this needs to stay because there's some things that we need to learn." And it's a little bit telling perhaps, what some of the sources for this were. We talked about this gentleman just a little while ago. One of the key figures in the "we shouldn't have to do the Indigenous training" is a gentleman named Leighton Gray. Leighton is a fascinating character who actually had to step down from the body that chooses judges because of some very controversial social media posts where he said some very problematic things about Black Lives Matter and implied that there were conspiracy theories in regards to George Soros. It's worth noting that Leighton Gray is doing a whole lot of work with the Alberta Prosperity Project. So that tells you a little bit about Leighton. But the good news is that the Law Society said, "Hey, you know what? This is an important thing. We're going to keep it." So the vote could have been better. It would have been nice to see. It was like 800 votes to 22 to 1600, 1700 or something like that. It would have been nicer to see 50 votes to all of the other ones. So there's clearly work to be done. It's clear that module is still very much needed. Moving on from there. This was the big news today. Ezra Levant, he's got some thoughts. And now this is wild because Ezra Levant has launched a constitutional challenge against a liberal who blocked him. Admittedly, Ezra said some disrespectful things, some impolite things. Let's go with it's by Ezra's own admission in this article. He says, "Yeah, I said some things," but Ezra Levant is making the argument that people who are delivering news, people who are newsworthy, they should not be able to block anyone. Politicians shouldn't be able to block anyone. It affects people's ability to have freedom of expression. And there's actually some lawyers that have said there might be something to this. Now, what's most likely to this is we're going to see, if it isn't already up, we're going to see the Rebel come out with a support our constitutional challenge, fightforfreedom.com, because that's kind of what they do. They take an issue, they start a website, they do some fundraising. So it wouldn't be at all surprising to see that happen. But there's some greater questions that need to be asked. Because, first of all, if you're going to say that noteworthy public things that drive news, things that drive conversation, shouldn't be shut out, they shouldn't be able to block. Well, we have two questions. Now, like we said, we don't think that they have a website up yet, but we can't say for sure because even though we've never interacted with them, the Rebel News blocked us when the breakdown first formed and has been blocked ever since. But the greater question that needs to be asked, as much fun as it is that the Rebels are like, "Oh, people shouldn't block people," and now they're all, "Oh, we're going to block you," is Ezra Levant has now apparently thrown Premier Danielle Smith under the bus not once, but twice. He threw her under the bus with the letter. You might remember a keystone of the CBC story. The first story was everybody was like, "Oh, there's no proof. They're just making stuff up. They don't know anything about whether or not there's anything." And then the second CBC News story came out and said, "Well, actually, we know for a fact that Ezra Levant sat down with the premier and her chief of staff and delivered some legal advice potentially even though he's not a practicing registered lawyer, he had to give that up. He stepped down as a lawyer because of a bunch of controversy that was surrounding him. He gave the premier some legal advice that he believed that she could interfere effectively with the prosecutor's office and say, this is what you're going to do, this is what you're not going to do. So the CBC ran the story, and Ezra came out and was like, you don't get to slander me. I'm going to, I did write that letter. Here's the copy. And he released it to the public. Well, apparently he didn't think too far, or perhaps he did, ahead with his strategy of public officials shouldn't be blocking the electorate, because one of the things that Danielle Smith is famous for is blocking anybody who asks any critical questions, blocking anybody who says anything negative about her and her policies, even if it's respectfully said. She went on Ryan Jesperson when she was first elected, when she first became party leader, and she said, you know what, as long as you aren't using profanity, I'm going to unblock everybody, and I will never block anybody who hasn't used profanity. And one doesn't have to look very far to see that simply isn't true, because we were first blocked when we asked her about her infamous GoFundMe for a lawsuit that went nowhere except to donate $90,000-ish to the JCCF. We got blocked for that. There's no profanity. We didn't use any bad words. So it's kind of fun. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with that, and whether or not Danielle Smith's going to be unblocking everybody. I don't think she is, but we're going to have Sarah Biggs join us in just a couple minutes to talk about that. Before we do, though, Livingston McLeod, we got to have a chat. It's getting a little out of control there, kids. This is your second nomination race, Livingston McLeod. The first one, it didn't go so well. So for anyone who hasn't been paying attention to Livingston McLeod, they kind of sort of tried to have a nomination race a few months back. And the sitting MLA, the incumbent MLA, has said, no, I'm out. I don't want anything to do with this. And the main candidate that was running was a previous People's Party of Canada candidate who has some factually flawed views on vaccines and laws and all of the things, and had a temper tantrum during the federal election at a debate where she ran out in protest because somebody said something that she didn't like and she interrupted them. It was a whole big mess. She was disqualified because of her problematic social media presence. And Livingston McLeod decided, hey, we're gonna have us another nomination race. And boy, they are staying on brand, because one of the candidates for their nomination race is somebody named Shauna Oseen, and her social media, which is public, at least it was as of last night, by the way, is, will you be the judge? So there's a couple here. You want to know how she feels about maybe trans issues? The part, she puts up a tweet on her Facebook where she says the party that believes men can get pregnant wants to control misinformation on the internet. On vaccines, when eugenicist billionaires offer a free product, you may want to be skeptical. I shouldn't have to explain this one. She posted, apparently she was in Calgary a little while back, down in Edworthy Park, where she was hosting an event for the 51st State Alberta Statehood Movement, which is a movement to move Alberta out of Canada and join the United States. But it gets worse. Back in 2022, she posted a meme. If we're removing statues because of the Civil War, we should be removing mosques because of 9/11. In 2021, she posted, reposted a tweet. All 22 ladies on the U.S. women's soccer team took a knee for Black Lives Matter right before they got their asses handed to them this morning by Sweden. Great. They deserved it. But the chef's kiss is this one right here. On July 22nd, 2021, the United Conservative Party celebrated 4 years since unity. We're doing it. We're crushing it. She shared that post, and said, this is called buying votes, corrupt to the core. This is the same person who's now running to be the UCP candidate for Livingston McLeod. The same one who called the UCP corrupt to the core. Now, there's a lot of people who've got some strong feelings about the UCP, and they got a lot of good reasons to have some of those strong feelings about the UCP. But there's certainly questions to be asked. A, if you believe that party's corrupt to the core, why would you be running for it? B, why is the party entertaining her? Why is this a thing? And she's not the only one. There's another candidate in that area who says, I'm challenging things about COVID and vaccinations as well. But if we want to understand why it is that we've seen this major narrative coming out of Livingston McLeod, one of the things that might be helpful is taking a look at their new board of directors. The UCP in Livingston McLeod just had an AGM. And they elected a whole new board. And when I say whole new board, I mean they filled literally every spot that was available. And some of the names on here might be a little bit familiar. Perhaps most familiar is Marco van Hugenbos. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing that. I believe it's Dutch. My Dutch isn't great. Marco van Hugenbos is one of the people who was recently in court because he was actively involved in the Coutts blockade. He was one of the organizers, allegedly, for the Coutts blockade. He's a big freedom guy. He's a big Take Back Alberta guy. And this brings us back to the whole conversation that we've been having for a while now about how it's really important to not underestimate how much influence Take Back Alberta currently has on the United Conservative Party. They took over half of the provincial board. And they're targeting specific constituencies where they're getting boatloads of people to show up. And they are getting to a point where they're going to be able to flip the entire script on what the UCP was. If you thought the UCP was, let's go with conservative, Sarah's going to kill me for saying that in just a second. Hard right, Reform Party, Lake of Fire. If you thought that was what was going on recently, brace yourselves. Because the people that are influencing a lot of the decisions that are happening are the same people who have these views that Shauna is espousing. Now, with all of that being said, let's bring into the conversation none other than the incomparable Sarah Biggs. Sarah Biggs, what's going on tonight? How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I love it when the rundown makes you tired.
It's been a day. It's it's been a day.
Let's start from the beginning and kind of work our way from there, because we certainly have had it's been an interesting 2 days.
Oh, can I just say shout out to healthcare workers today, because I went with my kid to urgent care because she has ankles issues, and we were in and out within like 2 hours with Narrowcast installed.
There we go.
Thank you so much. They were super nice too.
Can I ask which urgent care you went to?
You're not gonna like it.
Did you go to South Calgary?
I had to.
I'm glad that you had a positive experience there.
It was fast. We were fast tracked. It was good. We didn't wait long.
That's
Everything
good.
was it was the one with the lowest wait time, and there was with Netcare now. It's just like they saw what happened in the hospital 2 weeks ago. So they put her in their cast, and she's excited because she's going to be the coolest kid in school tomorrow.
There we go.
Yeah. No, I'm not going to kill you for the conservative piece. Nah.
Okay, well, that's good.
I got bigger problems.
That's fair. Okay, so let's start the handshake, Sarah. You and I talked about it already, but There's so many different theories. Was she trying to diss him? Was she trying to I don't know, do what? Where are we at?
I
Not
just
use
love
words.
how like the alternative media tried to convert it into a, well, Trudeau's a women gripper anyways. Fuck you guys. Like seriously, her hand was tanned.
I had this conversation like
Fuck.
45 minutes ago because if you
Her hand is tanned. Of course,
some
the blood flow's gonna come back differently.
I
And
actually
if the
said
guy has a
sunburn.
strong hand, like fuck me. Like seriously, is this where we're at? Like, can we just not look like a petulant child province for 5 minutes?
It's
Can we
hand
have class, please? We're not just a bunch of people with trucks with nuts at the back. Like, come on, man.
It's
Why
hand
is it so fucking?
Oh,
Oh,
we're filling up the jar tonight.
I'm angry. Like, I really wish, like, we have class. We know how to behave. This was again, trying to own the libs, but it didn't work well,
You think that's
right?
what it was though? Because like I was watching it. And here's the thing. I'm
I
not
don't
gonna
know.
say that I like went back and watched the whole thing. Like people did the handshake in slow motion, and it's wildly entertaining to be sure. But the the if you watch her body language, she's like all confident and everything going into it, and then there's this like eye contact moment, and that's when the hand drops. Like I was having this conversation with a friend earlier tonight, and I was like, I think honestly that Danielle Smith is used to
She
being the
got
most powerful person in the room. I think she's used to being the center of attention. And I think she ran into a bit of a wall, and I think she felt it. And that's why the hand dropped. I don't think it was some sort of clever tactical maneuver, because here's the thing. Danielle Smith has no poker face. And she didn't have any poker face for the rest of that sit down. But she had a very blank face right before.
I think she felt the pressure. I talked to a couple of journalists that were there. You know, so we could go with, okay, she was intimidated because it's the first time she was meeting Trudeau. Lots of cameras. Like, this is Ottawa. This is not the legislature, right? It's a total different game. Like, total different game when you hit Ottawa. A lot of people, a lot of flashes. And Trudeau's gonna kill her with kindness. He's just going to, because that's how he disarms a lot of people, is that he's so kind and welcoming, and he looks sincere. And I'm not peddling for Trudeau right now. I'm
He's
just saying how the
rehearsed.
guy is.
He's rehearsed. Like the
He knows
the
what he's
the
doing.
blocking on that, "I'm going to shake your hand now, turn and smile." It was like,
But he's been
say
doing
what you
that for
will about
10
the
years.
man and his policies, but his execution of, "I'm going to shake your hand and smile and do the camera thing," dude crushed. Like,
He's been doing that for 8 years. And that's how you're supposed to behave when leaders are meeting. That is proper behavior. And we don't know what happened. Maybe, like, she didn't seem like she really wanted to be there. She didn't seem too excited about it. We could be talking about it for hours, but at the end of the day,
so here's
like,
here's my
sure,
here's
I
where I
feel
wanted to
bad
go
for
with
her.
it. Here's
Like,
where
I
I
feel
wanted to
bad
go
for
with it.
her. Yeah.
I feel like watching that clip and her, we're here to talk about healthcare, but I'm going to talk about the energy sector for like the entire chunk of time that I get on camera. Um, I feel like the reason why she folded at the very beginning there, even if it was just for a crucial half a second during the handshake, is because I don't think she knows how to occupy the office of premier. I think it's the Danielle Smith show all day, every day. And I think even her body language and the contempt that she showed on her face, she was not representing the province of Alberta. She wasn't representing the office of the premier. She was representing I just got embarrassed and now I'm angry at you. And oh, that's right, I hate you on principle anyways. Do you, am I reading that wrong, or do you think she has just no concept of what it is to occupy public office?
I think she's starting to realize how it is different from what she was expecting or what she was hoping. Or because, not everybody's, when Daniel Smith walks in Ottawa, people are going to be like, okay, cool. Like,
It'd be like me
fine.
walking into a McDonald's. They're like, oh, there's a person here. That's really it.
It's like, oh, hey.
Get in
And
line,
when
man.
I walk into my kids' school, they're like, oh, no, not her yet. Oh, not again. No, I think, it's not, it doesn't work the same as the ledge. It is not the ledge. This is big leagues, big dollars, big negotiations, serious negotiations. And she's not the one taking the lead on it. She is a premier of a province. She was dealing with the finance minister, deputy prime minister, and the prime minister of the country. She was not in a position of power. And her mind's already pretty much made up on healthcare because she wants no string attached to funding. So I think she was a little. She hit a little bit of a wall there. She probably lost control. She probably didn't realize how it would be. It's very intimidating when you're walking, like when you walk into a press conference room. Not only it's extremely intimidating.
Well,
You,
that's
it's
when you're dealing with somebody who occupies the office. Like, one of the stories that you hear coming out of the States all the time is that people go into the Oval Office feeling like, I am so confident, and they walk in there and their mouth goes dry and they can't speak and they just turn into idiots the first time. And that's pretty much universal for you hear that story from people who do that all the time. And that's because of the significance and the weight of that office, particularly when it's occupied by somebody that is in any way
charismatic.
manifesting it. And I feel like Smith had her little moment of, I'm going to kick Justin Trudeau's ass. And then she walked onto the stage and she saw the things and she saw that he was just like, I'm going to be super nice to you. And I'm confident as all hell. And she didn't know what to do with it. Okay. Well,
They
I'm glad
don't
I'm right.
align. Not, yeah, no, I fully agree with you. They don't align. They will never agree. Um, she's using kind of contrarian messaging on a lot of issues right now. It's kind of weird. The right hand's not talking to the left hand. I think she walked in, she was like, fuck. Like, that was like at the UCP leadership, there was a lot of journalists sitting at the back, but they were at their table. There was not a lot of cameras, there was not a lot of flashes. Those rooms are not that big. And when you walk in and you hear click, 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 because you
Oh, that's
have
all the audio
all
was.
it's and the lights are blinding you and everything is just like you freeze.
And I get it, because like I remember the first time to talk about a different phase in my
Yeah.
life. I remember the first time I hit a major stage, and like I'd
Yeah.
played small bars, I'd played small venues, medium venues. The first time that I played a festival, the first
Yeah.
time that I played one of the premier venues in Alberta, I for each of those, especially I remember there's one festival that we played. I'm not bragging, but we opened for 5440, so no big deal. But um, there's that shift between like, I've got this, and then you walk out there and you realize like, this thing is bigger than I've ever been on before, and there's way more people, and what's happening. And I mean, you can have that moment and then recover from it and go on to do the thing. But I think it really, really showed that that was Danielle Smith's first festival show.
Well, it's like I'm gonna say like I would say that I felt the same way when I went first time on CBC News Network. It's live, it's national, hundreds of thousands. It's like, or you're on the radio and you know that your mother's listening
Or you're on the
across the
breakdown and you know your mom's listening.
my mother-in-law is listening too, but it's like, or I in the spring I did a full series with French CBC Ottawa, and my dad called me and was like, gained weight. I was like, thanks, Dad. Can you just be proud?
So can we say that was Danielle Smith's just not ready moment?
She was just not ready. She got JT'd.
Yeah. Let's talk about the money. So 10-year
Which
fund.
one? Which money?
Well, the healthcare, because that's what they were there to talk about. So you already pointed it out. Danielle Smith has said she doesn't want any strings attached to any more money coming from the feds, which is dumb because nobody would ever agree to, yes, I'll just give you free money. Have a nice day. But I mean, we're talking about some pretty big change. And Trudeau was very clear in his announcements. We'll be negotiating this with each province. So there's not a whole lot of, I don't see, it was to me, it seemed like a very smart move strategically because he said, hey, we've got all this money. Would you like some? All you have to do is come to the table and play nice. Danielle?
He did well. He played his cards well. Some people will say it's not enough, like Miss Notley this morning on Jesperson. She said it was not enough. Sure. But if you account for everything that they're offering on the table, it's an increase of 9.25%, I believe, which is it's quite substantial. We're not talking about pennies here. But what I loved about it is that Trudeau's speech yesterday, when he was talking about Federal Healthcare Act, healthcare for everyone, free healthcare, and he was reinforcing those points.
Oh, the public
that are
healthcare he kept hitting on.
I sent it to you. You were like, what do you mean? I was like, listen to what he says. And he was just like, to me, it felt like he was targeting Mo, he was targeting Ford, he was targeting Smith. And it was like, nah, you guys are bound to the Canada Healthcare Act, and we're the one with the big money. So you have to provide services. So basically, like I was explaining to a few people, the federal government's like big money, deals with all the money. Then the provinces are responsible to deliver with the money received the goods and services to the province's inhabitants. But they don't like it. They want to be in charge. They want to decide. But what's happening is that they don't get to decide if they want to fund solely private. And yeah, like about 30% of, all the doctors in this province have a professional corporation, right? Everything is invoiced through professional corporation. It's already like privatized healthcare if you want, because they are paying the professional corporation. They have agreements. So, is it 100% public? No, it is not technically, because all those professional corporations are, when a surgeon's doing a surgery, he has some billing codes and surgery codes, and then he bills through his professional corporation, Alberta Health, and then they pay them. So technically, not a publicly delivered, primary care network or surgical system. But at the end of the day, they're not going to give them no strings attached to go destroy everything, especially when he knows and understands the intent of certain elected officials in the country. Like, it's like if I would go to the bank and be like, yo, can you lend me like $1.5 million? I can go buy my house, but let's not have payment terms or, interest or.
Yeah, you guys don't get to set the interest rates or when I'm going to pay you back. Trust me, it's cool.
Yeah, trust me, it's cool. I got the money in my bank account. I qualify. Like buying a house, well, you know how it is. It's grueling. They're asking you where every single penny is coming from, and if you qualify the stress test and the
CMHC.
Thank you.
I got you.
Insurance. If you don't put 20% down in the bank, and the ratios, and anyways. Nothing comes free.
I gotta ask, so here's it's fascinating to me that I get that Notley has to try to distance herself from Trudeau, or she feels like she needs to. Ooh, I'm throwing that comment up. Um,
I'm not looking in the comments.
it's on the screen now. Um,
Andrew delivers again.
I get that Notley has to try to distance herself from the Notley Trudeau alliance and all of that, so she can't say anything great. But we have this recurrent theme of. Here's my question: do you think that the NDP should be worried at all about the perception that Notley's just trying to be like the no-calorie version of Smith? Because she
The
took the
NDP
bait
need to
on.
get their shit together. And that's what they need to do. All I see is bitching and whining with no plan. It's like yesterday, the NDP texted me. Hold on, I'm going to read it to you. Hold on. Where is it? I was very nice with the person, by the way. So it says, "Hi, Sarah. This person volunteering." Oh, my Siri is going off now. Shut up, Siri. Rachel Notley will protect our healthcare, whereas Daniel Smith wants us to pay to see a family doctor. Can Rachel count on your vote? And I was like, hey, I don't know. How are you going to fix it? How are you going to save it? What are you going to do? I was like, and I'm tired of hearing chaos. Like that word chaos, stop with it. It doesn't fucking work. And I told them, I was like, nobody's going to have my vote until comes change. And the fear mongering needs to stop. Bring on solutions. We are not idiots. And she was like, no worries. Thank you. Have a good night. They don't care. They do not care. Granted, it was a volunteer. But here's what I have to say. Notley this morning went out and said, no, it's not enough. Okay, what would you want? What would you do? Please, please stop being vague. Start bringing real solutions to the table. All I'm hearing is just fingers here, fingers there. There's no solution brought to the table. Okay, you're going to tell me you're going to fight for education. How? How are you going to fight for PUF? How are you going to fight for kids with PUF funding? How are you going to fight with kids with disability, with learning disabilities? How are you going to fight with big class size? They are not giving us anything. And the last thing I want is a Daniel Smith light.
Here's my question, because immediately to me when you said, because I didn't see Jesperson today. I
kind of watched it for a little bit and I read some stuff on it.
But here's the fundamental question that I have is like, okay, so you've been saying for like a couple months now that you're going to fix healthcare, and that was before the money. Mm-hmm. So like, if you could do it without the money, why is the money not enough?
Mm-hmm. But
was your plan contingent on getting more? Like it raises more questions for me than answers.
So the big problem that I have right now is that none of the parties are fucking waking up and understanding.
You're saucy tonight.
I am saucy because I'm frustrated because I'm tired of fucking platitude all the time. Tired of it. Give me something. And as a strategist, it's frustrating. As a comms person, it's frustrating. It's just bad. Bad. I have found them right up. But, when are they going to wake up and be like, okay, we are going to be fixing healthcare, but we will also, and whomever copies me, I'm going to be sending them a bill because I have a TM on that. We're going to be subsidizing the university for healthcare students at 50%. We're going to be subsidizing medicine school to help, family medicine students to get established in rural communities. We're going to be invest in education. God damn it. We could start having LPNs on the ground and running in the next 15 months if we get going. But no, they won't do it because, subsidizing school is bad. You want to be like Quebec? Do like Quebec. Do you know how much I was paying for my nursing training per semester? $125.
Well, did you see
There's
the? I
Mhm.
hate to do this. I do, but did you see the announcement that came from the Dark Prince of post-secondary today?
No.
They are investing
Oh, the
8.5 million in
$5,000 grant?
the
Oh,
$5,000
fuck
bursaries
off.
for
It's
nursing
not
students.
enough. Like,
Are you Rachel Notley all of a sudden?
cost of life, cost of living is rising up. Rent is going up. Food is uncontrolled. Transportation is extremely expensive. University of Calgary students, by an average, are going to be seeing an increase of 5.25% next year. A $5,000 grant barely pays for one semester with no books. Like, come on, guys. Stop being so goddamn slow. Do something. Bridge LPNs to RNs programs. Bring in physician assistant. Create more programs. Invest. That's the thing that people do not understand is that if you do not invest in education, with the boomers coming in to retirement, they're going to be going in homes and, start retiring. Your taxpayer base is going to go down. Invest in your future for a good job. Everybody's saying, oh, we're going to be funding good job. Do it now. Enough. Like they're pussying out and they're just chickening down, dancing around the bush. Like, oh, we're going to be doing something. Look at us giving you $5,000 maybe. Do something. Sorry, I'm so angry
You
because
are
there's
salty tonight.
There's so many strategies that you could do instead of giving $20 billion to the oil and gas companies or record breaking profits to fix something that they're legally supposed to do. Put that money in education. People will have good job. We're going to be able to transition. We're going to have a solid healthcare, and we're going to be able to retain people. Right now, we're going to be facing a brain drain. And if it keeps going that way, I'm next. I'm done. I'm tired. Like,
I
but
love that
seriously,
you brought up I love that you brought up R Star though, because it's this is something that some people have been trying to raise the alarm on for quite a while now, and
yeah, I'm
it's
gonna eat my donut.
okay now. Now that now that they're announcing, we're going to put $20 billion potentially towards this program, people are starting to realize, wait a second, we're going to be giving them more money for exactly as you
20
said.
fucking billion dollars. You could send a whole province to university for 10 years. Not maybe not, but you know what I mean.
Um, and it's their legal responsibility to clean the stuff. Yeah, it is a swear kiddie pool tonight. To clean this stuff up, but that gives me I got a couple other topics that I want to hit on. That gives me a perfect seg for the next episode that we're dropping as soon as we're done the show. We have a conversation with, again, Reagan Boychuk, who has been on the show previously talking about the R-Star program. And he not only gets into why R-Star is incredibly bad, no matter what name you give it, but we also have a whole conversation about royalties. And I think that the conversation's presented in such a way that if you didn't know a whole lot about royalties, like I didn't before the conversation started, um, it's an important one because I we're getting screwed as a province. We're getting right proper screwed, and if you take a look at the change of royalties from the Lougheed era to where they are now, boy, we're getting hosed. And for Danielle Smith to be rolling out this program that the previous government, who were pretty oil and gas friendly, Mr. Kenny with his hoodie at the Stamps game, um, when that government said, no, this isn't financially feasible, it goes against all of the principles that we have in regards to polluter pays. For Danielle Smith to be rolling that out now is really quite telling about. See, this is why, like last episode, you and I were talking, and I was like, you know what? I don't know how much of a populist she is. I think that's a fashionable facade that she can put on. She's got people. She's got to make sure get paid, and I think she's making sure that in certain places it's raining.
So here's the problem that I have. Some companies share tripled, quadrupled, quintupled septupled in the past 2.5 years. And we know that. You know, shareholders pay out $1.25, $1.50 a share every quarter. It's a lot. They're recording, all-time high profits. Our provincial profit's going to be extremely high. We're having problems with education. We're having problems with healthcare. She's looking to saving money into the healthcare program. Some municipalities are having issues because some oil and gas companies won't pay their dues to the municipalities. Some farmers are dealing with like wells that could, go bad tomorrow and contaminate their land. We are dealing with a lot of issues in this province. Huge mental health crisis, addiction crisis, but that's okay. Marshall Smith's got this, right?
Don't get me
We're
started on that.
having EMS issues. Do I need to keep going? Do I really need to keep going on how much $20 billion could be injected in different systems to help people and not corporations? And don't get me wrong, I'm a capitalist and I capitalize, but this is just plain wrong. Let's do some ASMR for a second. They have enough money in their pockets. Fuck me. Seriously, it's.
I got some more comms and strategy questions before we you have an aneurysm. Can we talk about the Alberta Party, please? What's going on there?
I don't know.
We had a tweet today, Sarah Biggs, from the Alberta Party. Here's my two things. Here's my two beefs. Please stop putting links in the main body of your tweet, everybody. As soon as you put an external link into a tweet, the algorithm goes, you know what? We actually like having people staying on our platforms, so no. And it pushes you way down in the visibility of it. So don't do that anymore, because it's terrible. The second one, the second little hint that I'd like to give to folks, because this is important. If you start your tweet with the name of the person that you're speaking to, I don't know, like at Alberta Teachers, for example, they're the only people who are going to see it. It doesn't show up in the timeline. It's considered as effectively, it's almost the same thing as a DM that's kind of sort of public. Why are we seeing, and don't even get me started on the, I can't even with the graphics. What's going on, Sarah? Why is this thing? We saw the AI bot last week. Now we've got, you sent me the tweet. You know what I'm talking about. Why is this a thing?
I don't know.
That's a terrible answer.
ASMR. I don't know what's going on. I really don't know.
It's very strange to me. I don't
It
understand.
is, they're trying. Well, they're trying, but I think that they need to take a step back and go back to the basics.
Because they've got some candidates. It's not like they don't have candidates.
Yeah, no, they have candidates.
They've got like 4 or 5.
They have some really good candidates.
They do.
Yeah.
I don't disagree. I think Dr. Grace announced this week. She announced on Monday, and I'm a huge fan of Dr. Grace.
They have Carrie Kondo. She's an accomplished. Carrie Kondo is a teacher. She's a lawyer. She was on the immigration board. Decision making something. I forgot what it was, but she was working in the immigration. She's very accomplished. Her family is a healthcare family as well. There's Jenny Yeremy, Calgary Northwest, I think, and she is an engineer or a geoscientist. I don't know. Like they need to go back to basics. They really do.
For
They,
anyone who didn't see the tweet, which is I'm going to argue a lot of people because despite the fact that it went up at noon, and the Alberta Party has not small Twitter following. They have like I don't know 15,000. This is the train wreck, and it's a video. Enough said. Anything to add to that one, Sarah?
no.
Okay, let's do a thought exercise. I've been saving this
Sorry.
one up. This one's going to be fun for you, I'm sure. Let's say, hypothetically, you knew someone. Somebody came to you. They said, Sarah Biggs, you're a strategist. You're a Politico. You know the things, you know the gifts.
Maybe.
And they say, Sarah Biggs, I ran in an election like 4 years ago. What do I have to do to get people to understand there's no way that I'm running again? Because I got a phone call from this polling company that announced that apparently I was running for a party that may or may not have revoked my membership because jokes. Sarah Biggs, what do you say to that person? How do they make it clear, despite everything, they're not running in another election? What do
They
have to
don't.
do
They hire Sarah Biggs.
to convey the message that they're not running in another election?
No. I told you I was going to ask you every single day.
No.
Yes.
Hard no.
Yes.
All of the no. Why do
You
how
don't
do-
have to pick a party.
How do I make this stop?
Just
Like 3 months ago, people were asking and rumors were starting to go, and I was like, no. And I put up a tweet and I put up a Facebook post saying, absolutely not. And then I'm sitting at home
everything.
Monday night. I get a notification on the Twitter machine saying, hey, funny story, heard you were running. And I was like, the hell I am. Not 5 minutes after I responded to that, like, there's absolutely no way. I get the phone call. I get the poll saying, who would you vote for out of these three people? Rajan Sawhney, Gurinder Brar, Nate Pike. And I'm like, what's happening?
No, you just
How do I have how can I make this clearer? More clear.
you just block the entire province on Twitter.
Am I allowed to do that now? Because I hear that Ezra might get a little grumpy.
Oh, boo-hoo, Ezra. He's got me blocked.
Seriously, why won't this go away? How do I make this go away? This is a legitimate political comms question.
Because
How do I
you
make
are
this
electable.
Mm-mm.
You know, people
I
don't
have
ask me if
proven
I
that
run
false
because I'm not
twice.
electable.
I've proven that
But-
false twice. I don't need to prove it a third time.
That third time's
As
a
much as
charm, right,
there are
Andrew?
people who have-
Andrew said third time's a charm.
I think, I'm going to throw him under the bus here because I'm going to be totally honest. If there was somebody that I wanted to see run in my constituency that I could get behind, I could get behind
It
Andrew.
would be Andrew. Yeah. Andrew's an amazing community leader and advocate. What he's doing for
He
Safe
is.
Nose Creek is great.
He's got a great sense of humor.
He has a fancy medal too.
He does have a fancy medal now.
You know,
And he's got those
we didn't get
boyish
anything.
arm.
He has fancy things.
I think he could wear his little medal.
Yeah. Okay, Andrew, call me tomorrow. You got my number.
See, I knew I could throw Andrew under the bus and get everybody to leave me alone.
But no, you just ignore and say, nah. It's like everybody is talking about vote splitting. Nah. Vote splitting.
Here's my thing with the vote splitting. Everybody who, and I think it's such a dumb argument because I don't want to live in a two-party state. I just don't.
No.
I recognize that we do for this next election, but I don't think I don't want to get to a place where we're ever saying as a democratic society, you shouldn't run regardless of what your qualifications are, regardless of what solutions you bring to the table, because I want my team to win more.
Well, you know what's fascinating is that the left right now is like twisting their panties in knots. I'm sorry, but that's true about vote splitting and how scared they are to get Danielle Smith back in power. Fair. But what's funny is that when the right was the Wild Rose and we had the progressives and the middle and the NDP was on the left, I didn't see anyone complaining about vote splitting when that happened, didn't I?
Well, but also, like, the Conservatives fell out of power not because of vote splitting. They fell out of power because of Redford and corruption. The Wild Rose existed as a Conservative party for a good chunk of time. Albertans just said, okay,
Nope.
you think you're better than us, and we don't particularly like that. So
Vote splitting is not a thing.
is all I'm saying.
Please listen. It is not enough. Like, so because the right has united, well, the Conservatives, sorry, have united, now we are forced into a two-party systems, which is not ideal in the Westminster parliamentary system. I think people need to go back to basics. Like, give people. Do we want to turn like fucking the United States and have the Republican and the Democrats and fighting over one vote who's going to have control of the House of Senate? Do we want that? Seriously, it's ridiculous. Have a democracy is healthy when you have choices. I don't care who you represent. If you want to run for WIPA, fill your boots. There are more choices. A democracy is not healthy when it's either white or black. It is not healthy because what's going to happen is that a lot of people are going to stay home. And that would be more dangerous than vote splitting if they don't get the ground running in Calgary. Good.
Well, I still go to the idea, you know, if and I dunk on all parties equally. I think anybody who's paying attention should know that. But like, hey, Andy, to what you were saying earlier, hey, NDP, if you really want to get people to vote for you, give them something to vote for. And maybe
the NDP is their biggest enemy here. It is their election to lose. How long have we been saying that for, Nate?
A little while now.
A year and a half?
About that.
Yeah.
When is Danielle Smith going to do her next press conference?
I don't know. Trudeau. She's going to fall somewhere. She's going to blame it on JT.
She's back in Calgary. She's back in Alberta. She's got an event in Calgary tomorrow.
Good. That's fun.
But like, when is the next time we're going to see Danielle Smith answering questions in front of a camera? Do you think that are we going to be, because to me it's going to go one of two ways only. It's going to be either like tomorrow there's going to be surprise, we've got a press conference and we're banning, I don't know, something from Quebec because we want to be more like Quebec, or we're not going to see her answering questions for a good long time. And I think you might be frozen. Ruh-roh.
Hello?
There you are. You're back. Okay, good. I was so scared for a second. I thought I was all alone.
No, we're good. I was sending you a text. I don't know what's gonna happen. We'll see what's gonna happen. It's extremely hard to predict what this government will be doing. You know, we had a more childcare deal last week, which, you know, it's a feel-good policy. You know, it's always a little win, right? But I don't know. She's on vacation. She's rested, guys. I don't know. Maybe she's gonna go after universities and start saying that, you know, if they're not complying with the free speech report, they're gonna get their funding cut. Who knows? Like, it could go either super silent in the silo, airtight, or she's gonna go out because she feels refreshed.
I'm curious to see which it's going to be, because we've got 2 more days in the week and Friday's coming. Everybody knows Friday's in Alberta. It's not good.
Where am I Friday? No, I'm here.
Yeah, you got like 30 days left or something, don't you?
32. But I need to bring my cell phone with me.
Uh-oh.
I found a SMS for Mexico.
What are you looking for till Sunday? What are we watching for? Are we going to see more from CBC land about Danielle Smith and the prosecution problems, her prosecution complex?
Something's going on right now, and I'm not sure what. We're hearing noise in the background. There's weird stuff happening. Something is brewing. But we don't know what. We can put our we talked today.
Mhm.
Like there's noise, there's grumblings, there's something's weird. I'm getting messages, and it's just like, man, something's going on, Britta, right now. And I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah,
We'll see.
I got a couple of like, hey, so what have you heard texts today? And I was like, I don't know. I was at work, man.
Yeah, you're going back to work.
I
Good.
am going back to work.
Finally, I can have a heart attack in the comfort of my own home.
There you go. I'm so excited. No, I actually, I am starting the process of going back to work. I'm really excited about going back to work. And
Awesome.
it's not Let's Talk Day, so I'm just going to say things can get better.
Yeah,
They
you
can.
It's I struggled with postpartum depression. It was crippling. And now I'm just down to, one man, which is fascinating. It gets better, and you build strategies and you build resilience. And, it's not that you have an episode in your life. That's why mental health care has to be funded and must be funded. Look at what happened in Quebec today. A 51 years old bus driver drove into a kindergarten and killed 2 toddlers. 6 more in the hospital. Why? Because he was not doing well mentally. A lot of tragedies out there that are happening, or even daily struggles. Like I always said, open up, mental health care and give medication for free. Nobody should have to scrape the bottom of their change drawer to be able to pay for an antidepressant when you need it. They don't prescribe those for fun. They don't prescribe those because you're cute. They, you need to. A lot of things that I learned, through my journey, and I think, not sure if you can relate, but boundaries,
Yep.
boundaries. I was always taking too much. I was working too much. Even when my baby was 2 months old, I was back full on. Too much, too much, too much. I learned I'm going to have very busy periods, but you need to have boundaries. And that is so important. And if the people around you are not respecting those boundaries, you are empowered to pull the cord and do it for yourself. If you're not, we need to learn how to protect ourselves. If somebody doesn't bring anything positive in your life, if it solely brings toxicity, and if it makes you more miserable, pull the plug, guys. Trust me, it's the best thing you can do. Sometimes it hurts, but sometimes it is the right thing to do.
And it gets better. I mean,
It does get better.
It can get better. Everybody's journey, everybody's journey is different. And obviously different people are going to react to different things. But I take a look at where I was a year ago, where I couldn't walk into a grocery store. And now I don't even think about it. And I'm going back to work in a profession that I absolutely love. But it's not known for its low stress. And I'm up for it, which is, I'm really, really, really excited about that. So,
well, we were even talking the other day about doing something live, right?
Yep.
Like we're, it gets better. It really does. And, I'm not less of a person or weaker, or everybody at some point in their lives deal with mental health issues. Everyone. Why? Because chemical imbalances in the brain can happen like that. And you're not in control. You can't say, oh, control your mind. No. A chemical imbalance can really fuck you up. a hormone imbalance can really fuck you up and cripple you with anxiety. Like when my baby was born, I was waking up every 20 minutes just to make sure she was breathing. Now she cries at night, and I'm like, she'll fall back asleep. You, but she's 2.5. Oh my God, she's almost 2.5. Oh. But you learn to create your boundaries. And
Yep.
and if you need help, reach out. The biggest step is to admit that something's not going right and to go and get the help.
Asking for help shows more strength than not asking for help. Trying to tough it out on your own, that's not a sign of strength. Asking for help when recognizing there's a problem, that's where real strength lies. So I just wanted to.
Western Standard's gonna go after me tomorrow because I had postpartum depression.
Leela, here's ex-campaign manager.
Yeah.
Tries to convince breakdown host. It's so dumb. I'm never running again. I would not do that for all.
You told me to ask you in 4 years.
No, that was
Yes,
just
you
to
did.
that was to end the conversation.
And I said, fine, I'll call back tomorrow.
No, not going to happen. Nope. I want to say a big thanks to everybody in our chat tonight because we had an extraordinary, I got to scroll for days to get to the top of this thing. This is so awesome. I love seeing all of that. And I want to say a big thank you for all of the technical troubleshooting from the folks on the Twitter Spaces as well.
Yes.
Everything was figured out, and then that friggin' mixer went, and so I had to invent. I'll tweet out a picture of the disaster that's beside me right now. But yeah, thank you for everybody who's been listening tonight. Everybody who's been watching on the live streams. Thank you to everybody who's listening to the podcast version of this. If you are listening,
ratings are quite high actually.
Just we don't talk about that. We don't do
but
that.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised.
Shush, we don't do that. That is not what we do here.
I'm surprised.
As always, if you appreciate the kind of content that we're trying to produce here at The Breakdown, we would love nothing more than if you considered being one of our Patreon sponsors at www.patreon.com/TheBreakdownAB. With a Patreon sponsorship, you not only get the warm, fuzzy feeling that comes from knowing that you're supporting a subvertive, sarcastic commentary in the AB Poly realm. Cough, our last episode on True North. Cough. If you haven't watched it yet, it's one you should watch because it's the jokes are very, very visual, and I'm very proud of what we put together for that. But you also get early access to all of our interview episodes, and the interview that I was talking about where we have a conversation with Regan Boychuk about the R-Star program and what a debacle that is going to rob Albertans blind. But we also talk about the history of the royalty rates. And I knew that royalties weren't great, but the way that Regan presents it in that conversation is just so brutal. But it's a very good conversation, and all of our Patreon sponsors will have access to that in about 10 minutes. So there's benefits. Plus, you can tweet out at your favorite politician that you're not a fan of, hey, I just wanted you to know I'm supporting The Breakdown on Patreon, and it'll make them nuts. If you don't have the financial means to do that, we totally get it and appreciate that. Like and share, and just thanks for participating in listening to the show. That means everything, and that's why we do it. So with that, Sarah, any other final words before I wrap it up?
No, we should do a poll of where we should do our live. Let's do a poll tonight. See if people would be in for a good cause, for the food bank.
I'll do a poll tomorrow morning, and we'll raise funds.
No, be good. Practice your critical thinking and judgment, and read a book with your kids. Life is short.
Ooh, I like that one. All right, there we go. Read a book with your kids. Take care of yourselves, and as always, keep the conversation going.